her work is really incredible. And I think that it's all the more incredible because it takes a holistic approach to suicide prevention and increased awareness. And so it really is my privilege to be here this evening with you all. So thank you once again for having me. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about what I thought about when I was asked to speak on Life is Exploration. When I first heard Life is Exploration as the title, I thought it was such an interesting topic. And I immediately agreed internally that yes, life is exploration. But then when I thought about why I agreed, I couldn't immediately think of an answer to that. And so the way that I kind of thought about this whole talk was that it made me think first about two different questions. So the first question was, when I think about someone I admire, what are the traits and characteristics they have that I consider good and worth trying to develop in myself, or that I think are good to try to convince people to develop in themselves? And the second question was, what are the traits and characteristics that we need to live a good and worthwhile life? And when I asked myself these questions, a lot of different answers came to my mind, as I'm sure you have a lot of answers coming to your own mind right now. I thought that the people I admire are honest, disciplined, brave, kind, loving, hardworking. I also thought that to live a worthwhile life, you need to be wise and resilient and faithful and generous. So all of these different answers presented themselves to me, but then I thought that all of these traits are good and important, but they already get a lot of focus and attention all the time. I do not have children, but I have 3 young nephews who I love from the bottom of my heart. And these are all traits that their parents and I and the rest of our family try to teach them. And I think most parents I know try to teach these things to their children. But there is one trait and one habit and one characteristic that we don't talk about a lot. And yet, the more I thought about it as I was preparing for tonight, the more I see it as something vital. And that trait is curiosity. Now, I don't really know what you think about curiosity, but as I was preparing for tonight, I did quite a lot of research on curiosity. And one of the things that I learned is that historically, for a very long time, curiosity was considered a bad thing. If you look at what the philosophers had to say or prominent teachers had to say, people viewed it negatively. And nowadays, there are still many people who view curiosity that way. So for example, I'm not sure if you have this saying in India, but in English, there's the saying, curiosity killed the cat. Have you heard of this saying? Do you have a similar saying? It basically means that if you mind other people's businesses, or if you mind things that are not your business, you are going to get into trouble. So some people consider that curiosity is risky because it can get you into trouble. For others, curiosity is just being nosy, right? It's asking for information that you have no right to just because you're a busybody. So it's just not a good thing. And yet there's other people who view it as a waste of time and just an added distraction, right? All of us have jobs or school, we have families, and so we all have responsibilities. And so some people think that being curious kind of just leads you astray from your responsibilities. And so people say curiosity is not a good thing. Just focus on what you're supposed to focus on. So as I said, I'm not sure how all of you or think or feel about curiosity, but personally, the more I thought about it and the more I did research on it, the more I thought that actually curiosity is vital to life. So I'm not sure if some of you noticed, but the subtitle I gave to this talk is Life is Exploration, a Case for Curiosity. And so this is really my goal for this evening. If you are someone who views curiosity as a negative thing, then I hope you will hear me out before you make up your mind fully. And I hope to convince you that it can actually be something incredibly enriching for you, who you are, and for your life. Now, if you are someone who views curiosity in a neutral way, or if you don't really care, or you just haven't thought about it, then I hope to stir you to see it positively and consider why becoming curious is something worth thinking about and acting on. And if you are already somebody who thinks curiosity is a great thing, then I hope that this is an encouragement for you to keep growing and building this habit in your life. So let me start by asking the most basic question. When I think about curiosity, what do I mean? What is curiosity? I found a great definition, which I really liked from this researcher in the US. Her name is Dr. Brene Brown, and Dr. Brown is a researcher who has studied vulnerability, shame, but she's also studied curiosity. And the definition that she uses is this. Curiosity is recognizing a gap in our knowledge about something that interests us and becoming emotionally and cognitively invested in closing that gap through exploration and learning. Curiosity often starts with interest and can range from mild curiosity to passionate investigation. Let me reread that one more time because I think it's quite a large definition that covers a lot of things. Curiosity is recognizing a gap in our knowledge about something that interests us and becoming emotionally and cognitively invested in closing that gap through exploration and learning. Curiosity often starts with interest and can range from mild curiosity to passionate investigation. So here are a few things about this definition which are worth noting. First, as Dr. Brown tells us, when you're curious, you have first realized that there is a gap in your knowledge and understanding. In order to be curious, you need to have some level of awareness that there is something you do not know. Nobody gets curious when they're not aware that they're missing something or that there's a piece of information that they don't have. Let me share from my perspective. A few years ago, I did a master's degree, and I am somebody who loves to learn. So I read a lot of books because I really enjoy reading. And so to be perfectly honest with all of you, when I started my master's degree, I was actually very arrogant because I started my master's degree thinking that I knew most of what I needed to know, and that I would go to school, and in school, they would teach me a few more things, but really I thought I was very knowledgeable. And within maybe 4 weeks of starting my master's degree, my lecturers threw so many new things at me, and I learned so many new things that I realized how actually ignorant I was. But the great thing about that was that now I knew what I didn't know. Before coming to my master's, I thought I was very knowledgeable, but actually I had about this much knowledge. Then just by learning more, I became aware of how much more there was to know and how big the gap in my own understanding was. And so it was very exciting because it meant that there was so much to grow in. And so curiosity starts with an awareness that you don't know something. The second thing that we have to note about this definition is that curiosity is both cognitive. Hello?
Madam, we can continue.
Okay. Curiosity is both cognitive, that is, it's something that that grips our minds, but it's also something that is emotional. It's when there is something that we care about knowing, and we know that there are things about that subject or skill or person that we don't know, and we care both intellectually and emotionally about learning what we don't know. And the third thing is that interest, being interested in something, and curiosity are not the same thing. Dr. Brown defines interest like this. Interest is a cognitive openness to engaging with a topic or experience. So if you'll note, interest is something that is only interesting intellectually, but curiosity involves both your mind and your heart. So let me give you some examples. Right now, I'm in the Philippines. I'm here traveling for a trip, and I'm staying in a house where there are 3 dogs. I'm not really a dog person. I apologize to all of you who might love dogs. But the dogs that are staying in this house are very sweet. And so I've been watching them a lot, which has been really nice. But another thing about my trip, other than I'm staying with dogs, is that since I've arrived to the Philippines from Austria, I'm severely jet lagged. And it has been years since I've traveled and have had to deal with jet lag. So I've also been very sleep deprived because my body is struggling to adjust to the time zone that I'm in. So because I'm sleep deprived, the other day I walked down the stairs wishing that I could go back to sleep, and I saw the 3 dogs were asleep. And so I was a little bit jealous because I wanted to sleep. And then this random question popped into my mind. How many hours do dogs need to sleep a day for it to be healthy? You know, humans, we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night to feel good. I know that some people can get by with 3 hours or 4 hours, but by and large, 7 to 9 hours is the general rule for humans. But just seeing the dogs asleep got me interested. And I wondered how many hours of sleep a day a dog needs. Now, if you want to know the answer, just because I raised the question, the answer is 12 to 14 hours a day. That's a lot. It's much more than I thought. But that's not the point. The point is, my question was just interest. I was not emotionally invested in finding out the answer. It popped into my head just because of the circumstances. And since Google is at my fingertips, it was easy for me to find out the answer. But if Google didn't exist, my heart would not have been broken because I couldn't find the answer. So that is interest. Now, let me give you another example. I mentioned earlier that I have 3 nephews, and the eldest is 6 years old. The second one is 3 years old, and the baby is 1 year old. And they are the loves of my life. I would do anything for them. Now, if I see one of them in a bad mood or feeling sad, I immediately want to know what's going on. But it's not just an intellectual question. I'm not just trying to satisfy some intellectual query. It is both intellectual and emotional. I want to find out what's wrong because I want to see if there's a problem, if there's something I need to do to take care of them, if they need something to do with me, or just to show them that I care. Now, it starts with the awareness that there is something I don't know. I notice my nephews are not doing well, and I don't know what's happening. So there is a gap in my understanding in that situation. And since it's both intellectual and emotional, it launches me into action to find out what's wrong. See, if I can't find out how long a dog needs to sleep, I will not care. It's a question in the moment, it pops into my head, and then I move on with my life. But if I can tell something is wrong with my nephews and I can't find out why, that's a very different story. I will be worried. I will do whatever I can to find out. I will tell them that it's okay if they don't want to tell me. They can tell me when they're ready, but I will also talk to their parents to find out if something happened. I will try to observe them to see if I can figure it out. I will be willing to do a lot of work to answer this question. And that's an example of curiosity in the context of a relationship. Although curiosity, obviously, is very often not in such a negative context, but this is what curiosity is. It involves your heart and your mind. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that it's vital for life. Now, you might say, okay, great, but all you've done so far is describe what curiosity is. You haven't said why it's vital for life. And you're right, I haven't said that yet. And this is where I'm going to turn to now. So as I was preparing, I was actually quite surprised to find out how much research has been done on curiosity. There's a lot. If you are interested to figure it out for yourself, I think you'd be surprised as well. So I'm going to share some of the things that I learned and some of the reasons why I think that approaching life with curiosity and viewing life as exploration is so important. And I'm going to focus on 3 things in particular. Curiosity does at least 3 things for us. First, it helps us cultivate a sense of belonging and build stronger connections with others. Second, it helps us build resilience in the face of suffering. And third, it makes our worlds bigger. So I'm going to start on focus on the first one. Curiosity helps us cultivate a sense of belonging and build stronger connections with others. I think we can agree, all of us want to belong. All of us want to be known exactly for who we are, and we want to be accepted as we are. Now, some people are going to say, no, I feel very uncomfortable telling people who I am. I don't want to share certain parts of myself. There are certain parts of myself that I am ashamed of. There are certain parts of myself that I don't like, and I don't want people to know. But I think usually when people say that, what they really mean is not that they don't want to be known. It's actually that they're scared or worried about how people will react to them if they learn those parts of themselves, right? It's not that they don't want to be known, it's they're worried about the response if people actually get to know them. If I knew that no matter who I was, I would be loved and accepted, then I would not be afraid to show people or tell people who I really am. We want to be known and accepted with all our qualities, but our flaws and with our flaws and our mistakes and our failures. There's a quote that I really like. Let me share it with you. It's by this man, C.S. Lewis, who said this: the typical expression of opening friendship would be something like, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." It is then that friendship is born. And I think that's so true. There's that feeling of excitement when you share something and somebody goes, "Me too," or "completely understand. I've been thinking the same thing." We know that things are right when we feel there's a point of connection between us and someone else, and when we know that they understand us and accept us. And it brings this immense sense of belonging that all of us want and seek. And curiosity helps us build these connections. When you are curious about somebody, you are creating space to build a relationship. I don't know if you've ever experienced having a conversation with somebody who it's very clear they don't want to talk to you, or somebody who is always staring at their phone when you're trying to talk to them. It's very unpleasant, you know? You feel ignored, you feel dismissed, you feel unimportant. When somebody does that, there's no space to build a relationship when they're very uncurious about you, when there's no interest or curiosity about who you are. But the opposite is also true when you bring curiosity along. When somebody approaches you with curiosity, there's a space that begins to be created to build a relationship. It makes the relationship possible in a way that isn't if we are not curious about the other person. Curiosity, then, if you take it a step further, also signals that you value the person in front of you. When somebody wants to know something about you or wants to know what you think, it feels pretty good, right? I mean, when somebody asks for my opinion, I usually feel pretty good about myself. When someone demonstrates curiosity about us, we often take it as something pleasant. Not always, it's true. Sometimes we just wonder if the person has bad intentions, or we wonder if the person is nosy. But very often, when somebody, wants to know something about us and wants to be curious about us, it's a good thing. Now, I think if we're honest with ourselves, humans are very self-centered. We all think about ourselves a lot. And to a certain extent, that makes sense. There's this novelist called David Foster Wallace, and he said this: think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not the absolute center of. The world as you experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. Other people's thoughts and feelings have to be communicated to you somehow, but your own are so immediate, urgent, real. Now, Foster Wallace continues on to suggest that it is only if we practice curiosity about others that we can free ourselves from being so self-obsessed. And I would argue not only that it helps us become less self-absorbed and self-obsessed, but it also contributes to building the relationships that all of us want and crave. I was reading an article a few months ago written by a man who had been divorced. And in his article, he was reflecting on what he thought was the one thing that probably let his marriage fall apart. And that was the fact that he was more interested in his own point of view than how his wife felt about certain things. And the example he gave is that every time he would use a glass from the kitchen to get some water, some juice, some tea, he would put the glass next to the sink, even though his wife would ask him to put it inside the sink. And it drove his wife crazy. She would get very angry about it. She would ask him to put it in the sink so she could have space around the sink to use the kitchen. But he would insist on his right to leave it to the side. And he couldn't understand why it bothered him so much. After all, right, it's just putting a glass somewhere that he found convenient, and it wasn't really a big deal to him. But as he was reflecting on this interaction with his former wife, he explained that for his wife, it wasn't about the glass. And I think that those of you who are married would know that sometimes when you fight with your spouse, what you're fighting about is not really what you're fighting about. It's almost like an excuse to talk about something else, to fight about what you really want to fight about. And so for this man, it was about the fact that he didn't care to hear what she needed. And this is what part of curiosity can heal or can help. When you are curious about somebody, you are telling them that how they feel and what they think matters. You might not always agree with them, but you are telling them, when you think something, I want to know. When you feel something, I want to know. Now, this man ended up saying that he was more concerned about his own ego and his right to put the glass where he wanted than understanding his wife and where she was coming from. And so curiosity about somebody builds that connection. Now, not only that, but curiosity can also help us deal with conflict and therefore build stronger connections with others. And all of us know this, right? Conflict is everywhere. We find conflict in our homes, our workplaces, our schools. All of our communities have conflict. All of our countries have conflict. As you said, I'm from France, and I don't know if you've seen in the news, but right now in France, there's massive riots ongoing, very violent. Shops have been destroyed and burned down, and there's a lot of destruction going on. And so conflict is really a part of our life everywhere. And it's a strange thing to suggest that curiosity can deal with conflict, and yet it's true for multiple reasons. There's this great book called The Scout Mindset by Julia Galef. And in it, the author talks about how when we are confronted with somebody who disagrees with us, the majority of us take what we call, or what she calls, the warrior mindset. What she means by the warrior mindset is that when somebody disagrees with us, or when somebody holds an opinion that we don't like, we automatically think that it's our job to defend our position. Like a warrior whose job is to defend the town or the country or the region, we look at the person who disagrees with us and we think, my job is to defend myself against them. And so a lot of us, I'm sure you've noticed in your own life, we end up talking past each other. We're all screaming, we all want to be heard, but nobody's hearing each other. And so what this author proposes, what Julia Galef proposes, is to approach people who are different than us with what she calls the scout mindset. Now, I've never been part of the military, and maybe some of you have, but in an army, the scout or the scouts are not they're not people whose job it is to defend anything. Their job is to go ahead and see what's there, whether it's good or bad. It's not their job to decide if it's worth advancing, if it's worth attacking, if it's worth defending. Their job is just to understand as accurately as possible what the territory ahead looks like and report it back as faithfully as possible. Their job is to understand the territory that's up ahead, the situation that's up ahead. And Galef recommends taking this whole mindset into our relationship. What if instead of taking first the position of defending ourselves when somebody is saying something we don't like or we disagreed with, we approach them with curiosity, with a scout mindset, with the goal not of telling them why they're wrong, but first with the goal of actually understanding what they're saying as faithfully as possible. And once you understand where the person is coming from, it's easier to move forward, even if we disagree with them. Because at least if you faithfully understand what the person is saying and you still disagree, then at least you're disagreeing with what they're really saying, not what you're assuming they're saying. Now, the challenge is having the strength to kind of lay down our metaphorical weapons, or I guess in some cases, literal weapons, and to approach the person with curiosity to figure out what they're saying instead of assuming we know. And in this book, which I highly recommend, by the way, I'm only giving you a brief introduction to it, but I really recommend this book. Julia Galef gives a lot of very practical tips on how to do that. But the key, I think, is first to be willing to try to develop this habit of approaching people with curiosity to understand rather than to defend our own position. There's this fascinating man. Throughout my research, I came across this fascinating man called Jonathan Powell, who was the chief of staff of Tony Blair when Tony Blair was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And this man, the reason I think this man is fascinating is he has an NGO whose mission is to mediate between government and terrorist organizations to try to find peaceful solutions. If I'm not mistaken, the name of the NGO is called Intermediate. It's based in the UK, but I think that this work is fascinating because his organization is going into the hardest conflicts, the most violent conflicts, and they try to find peaceful solutions to end the violence. And so this is a man who really knows what he's talking about when it comes to negotiation. And he says this, I read this in this book called Curious, The Desire to Know and Why Your Future Depends on It. He says this, the fundamental question, Powell told me, isn't what, it's why. If the parties negotiate on pre-agreed positions, that is, if people negotiate based on what they assume the person's position is, the negotiation becomes a trade-off in which one side loses while another gains. But, Powell said, if you ask what people's underlying interests are, what do they need, then you're more likely to get to find an imaginative solution. But in order to get to people's underlying interests, to fix a problem, you have to be willing to ask questions and get curious and actually listen to what the person is saying. There is no way to get to the root of what somebody really wants or needs if you don't actually ask the questions or if you don't listen to what they're saying and if you are intent on assuming what you think they mean or hearing only what you want to hear. And so curiosity becomes a habit that can teach us how to better deal with conflict. So that is the first thing that curiosity can do for us. It helps us cultivate a sense of belonging and build stronger connections with others. But I also said that curiosity helps us build resilience in the face of suffering. Suffering is something everyone faces in different ways and in different intensities, but it is part of life in a broken world. And The suffering that we experience sometimes is our own fault. Sometimes it's partly our fault, and sometimes it's not our fault at all. But no matter whether we or somebody else is responsible for causing suffering, what is sure is that we all have to learn to deal with it. Now, being resilient is the ability to overcome adversity. And we all have different levels of it. But what is interesting about resilience is that it's something that is built instead of something that is just inside of us. Interestingly, there have been studies that show that curiosity can help contribute to our overall well-being and our resilience. So for example, in 2007, a group of researchers found that on days when they are more curious, people high in trait curiosity reported more frequent growth-oriented behaviors and greater presence of meaning, search for meaning, and life satisfaction. Greater trait curiosity and greater curiosity on a given day also predicted greater persistence of meaning in life from one day into the next. When you are more growth-oriented, you are more likely to deal better with failures because you don't automatically think that your failure is fixed and cannot be overcome. You don't, for example, look at yourself and think, since I have failed now, I have to be a failure all the time, or I am not good enough. You might be hurt, you might be sad, you might be disappointed in the face of your failure, but you can also see your suffering with some perspective where you see that that failure is now, but you can grow and learn from it. And so it is not permanent. Now, the study also found that curiosity means that you're more likely to find meaning in what you do. And finding meaning in what you do is well known to help you cope with suffering when it comes. When we are able to find some kind of meaning when we face suffering, we deal with it better. So curiosity contributes to our resilience. It contributes to our ability to cope with suffering. And, you know, when we suffer, it is the human tendency to turn into ourselves and to focus only on what we're going through, on our feelings, on our suffering, on what's happening in our minds. We all do that, but curiosity is a life force. If depression involves turning inward, a feeling that there's nothing in the world that is worthy of our attention, or that nothing we pay attention to is worthy, then it is curiosity which takes us the other way. That reminds us that the world is an inexhaustibly diverting, inspiring, fascinating place. There's this novel by T.H. White called The Once and Future King, which is about King Arthur. And in it, there's a passage that explains this very well. So let me share it with you. The best thing for being sad, replied Merlin, beginning to puff and blow, is to learn something. That's the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake at night, listening to the disorder in your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world about you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There is only one thing for it then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look what a lot of things there are to learn. And I experienced this myself some 12 years ago to show how this helps build resilience in the face of suffering. So this is a personal story, so I hope that you bear with me. But in 2011, I was a student in the United States doing a bachelor's degree in psychology. And I was a very good student. I'm not sharing this to brag. I'm sharing this because it contributed to what happens next. And I hope you will understand why I'm telling you this. But I was an excellent student, and my goal in life was, after getting a bachelor's in psychology, I would go on to become a doctor, either a psychiatrist or a neurologist, because I found the brain, I still do, I find the brain, the human brain, and how it works so fascinating and interesting. But in my third year of university, at the end of my third year of university, um, my family ran into very big financial problems. And all of a sudden, we could not afford my education. And I was forced to drop out of school. And that was devastating for me, because there was no possible, there was no hope that I was going to go back. And so in the snap of a finger, I felt like my entire future had been taken away from me. And it felt so unfair, because I was working so hard. I was such a good student. And yet there were people who, when they heard that I dropped out of school, assumed that I dropped out of school because I was lazy or because I was not smart. There were people around me who got to keep going to school, and all they were doing was partying, and they didn't see the value in their education. And so it was very painful, because it felt so unfair for me. And so I dropped out of school. I was terrified and angry and hurt, because I saw my whole future disappear, and it felt unfair. But what was so terrifying, now that I've been able to reflect on it, what was so terrifying was that for the last how many years, I had had my eyes fixed on one goal only: graduate from university with honors, become a doctor. And then when that disappeared, suddenly I felt like there was nothing else. I didn't know how to do anything else. I didn't have a backup plan. It had never occurred to me that I would not achieve my goal. Now, thankfully, somehow, I went into survival mode. And so I started looking for work. But you see, the big problem about having dropped out of school and not having a bachelor's degree is that when you have no degree, you have no certificate. And when you're applying for jobs, one of the first requirements is that very often you need to have a college degree. And so I saw all of these job openings with job descriptions where I knew for a fact that I could do the job and I could do the job well. But because I didn't have the piece of paper that said I graduated from college, I couldn't even get an interview. So it felt like a vicious cycle. It was just, everything was telling me, you're a failure, and I would try and something else would happen. In the end, I started private tutoring, not because I loved it, but because it was the only thing I could do. I had been an excellent student. I knew in general how to explain concepts and help other students. So I figured that's what I might as well start doing as a job. And as time went by, I started realizing that I really enjoyed it. You see, I have always loved learning, always. And when you're teaching somebody else, for those teachers in this room, you know that you have to become a learner, because sometimes students are going to ask you questions where you don't know the answer, or they're going to ask really interesting questions that make you think about something else. So you have to go and figure it out and learn something interesting so that you can talk to the students and give them the answer. I also learned that students are very different and people don't learn in the same way. And so all of a sudden, I had this interest and curiosity about figuring out how to convey the same material to different students in different ways to best help them. So little by little, I started loving this new thing called teaching, which I had never considered before when my mind was just fixed on becoming a doctor. And so I was curious about how to grow as a teacher, and learning to do something new helped me through the difficult period of dealing with feeling like a complete failure and feeling inadequate. And I think the reason it did that is because ultimately, curiosity makes our worlds bigger. You see, part of what was so terrifying when I dropped out of school was that I had had one goal for a very long time, which means that I felt like I only knew how to do one thing. But somehow, Learning something new, learning how to teach, made my world bigger. It showed me that my world of only focusing on being a doctor and seeing that as the only possible future for myself was very small. There are thousands and thousands of other things worth doing. Is being a doctor a good thing? Yes, absolutely. I am very grateful for the good doctors I have in my life, but it is not the only thing worth doing. And so 12 years after this happened, I am a teacher and I absolutely adore my job. And what's really incredible is I would not have chosen it for myself, but I'm so thankful that this is the direction I ended up taking. And so curiosity about the world, about skill, about people constantly challenges our understanding of things. And when things challenge us, I think we all know it can be very uncomfortable, but it is always so enriching and it brings us so much meaning and joy and awe. When we are curious about people who are different from ourselves, we grow. We learn new perspectives. We learn new cultures. We learn new expressions. We clarify who we are and who we want to be. When we are curious about the world, we grow in our own understanding of it, and it forces us to ask even deeper, more interesting questions that show us how incredible the world is. We ask questions about life and about meaning. When we are curious, we become different people, better people, and the world is better for it. Albert Einstein said this: "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mystery of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery each day." Now, most of us are not Albert Einstein. I know I am definitely not Albert Einstein, but I think that what he says is true. The world is where it is today with all of its structures and systems and cultures and new advances in technology and medicine and psychology and biology, and even with all of its problems, because people were curious and asked themselves questions. Change, positive change, depends on curiosity. Without curiosity, our worlds remain small in our minds and the external world remains the same. Some years ago, I heard this story which stuck me. I found it a little bit funny, so I'm going to share it with you. There's this woman who asks her mother for a recipe for roast chicken. And so this woman tells her, okay, you take the chicken, you season it, you cut the chicken in half, you put it in the pot, you put it in the oven, you cook it for for an hour and a half. And then this woman eventually has a daughter and gives this recipe to the daughter. And eventually the daughter is, seasoning her chicken and cooking the chicken in half and putting it in the oven. And she goes, "Why am I cutting the chicken in half? Why can't I just cook the chicken as a whole?" And so she asks her mom, "Why do I have to cut the chicken in half?" And the mom says, "You know what? I don't actually know. I have no idea why you cut the chicken in half. Go ask your grandmother. She's the one who gave me the recipe." And so she asks her grandmother, "Grandma, why do I need to cut the chicken in half?" And the grandmother looks at her and says, "I don't cut the chicken in half." And she says, "Yes, you told mom that you have to cut the chicken in half." And the grandmother thinks for a while and then she goes, "Oh, it's because when your mom asked me for the recipe, my oven was very small. My chicken couldn't fit as a whole." And I love this story because it shows us that one simple question, why, can change so much. I've been thinking about different organizations and workplaces and different governments and different societies. And we often settle when somebody says that's just the way it is. And yet, if we tried to understand, if we sought the world out curiously, people out curiously, ourselves and our lives curiously, the world would be very different. So let me end tonight's talk with just one more quote. "Choosing to be curious is choosing to be vulnerable because it requires us to surrender to uncertainty. We have to ask questions, admit to not knowing, risk being told that we shouldn't be asking, and sometimes make discoveries that lead to discomfort. Choosing to be curious is a courageous thing. It requires strength and bravery. And approaching life as exploration is not an easy thing to do. But let me encourage all of us tonight that it makes life so much more full, all the more exciting, all the more meaningful. So be courageous and learn to be curious. Thank you.
It was really touching, madam. Your personal experiences that you wanted to study, but due to financial problems, you could not continue. But still, you managed to become a great teacher and great motivational speaker. I liked this cutting the chicken because due to a small oven, we got similar story when they will always when a newly married wife she will have a small fish always in the what you call a tava, that is and she will ask her husband asks, why you make only small fish, cut a small fish and you are going to make. He says, my mother used to do like that. Then that son-in-law will ask the mother-in-law, why you cut fish and make it. He says, no, no, my mother used to make like that. He'll ask the grandmother, why you make fish cut and you're going to make it. He says, that time my pan was very small, so I have to cut the fish. So it was wonderful, similar. And you said many examples of Einstein and other people, because everything in life comes with a curiosity, whether it is our inventions, our betterment in life, whether it is world inventions, and whether it is electricity to any other thing. Only because of the curiosity, people started learning. Now people are going to do more inventions only because of curiosity. The PPTs were really helping, madam. We could get so many. Choosing to be curious is choosing to be vulnerable. It is make discovers that lead to discomfort. We have to ask questions, admit to not knowing, risk being told that it is very good idea. How we are going to make ourselves know better by having not giving up curiosity. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. When we question ourselves, when we explore ourselves, what I can do better and better and better, but one cannot help but we all have to be contemplate mysterious eternity. It is enough if one tries merely to compare the end a little of this mystery each day. Each day, that is very beautifully you have said, madam. When we are going to have each day exploring something, knowing something, you having curiosity, and when it comes to what is curiosity, helps to cultivate a sense of belongingness and builds stronger connection with others. You have given beautiful examples about the relationship, husband, wife, and family, and other things. Help us to build resilience in the face of suffering. That one is a wonderful way they how we explain, and make our world bigger. Because this is more important when we are going to know more about the curiosity, how we have to come on. Our world is going to be bigger and our problems will be smaller, I feel. Then learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which we can, the mind and can never exhaust. Never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or never distressed, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look what a lot of things there are to learn. This is very important. Learning and curiosity will go as some all people will say. When Socrates was given the punishment of death, and he's supposed to take the poison, bowl of poison, and some person will be playing some instrument. He says, I want to learn that instrument, call that person. Then all disciples says, why you want to learn? And he said, I can learn and die. That is the interest in people to learn. That is the curiosity should not die in any person. We are very happy to have you, madam. You have rich experience and you have shared with us. And we never give up the curiosity of learning great personalities like you. We would like to have more of your experience to share with us. And I feel you never feel that you don't have children, madam. In our foundation, Spandanaedaif Foundation, we have thousands of children who will be interested to learn something from you, listen something from you. By seeing their smile, you feel that all are my children. Please come to our foundation once if you happen to come to India. We are very happy to have you, madam. Your own life is one example for the exploration. The way you have had problems, whether it is financial and others, how you could come out with struggling with all problems, the curiosity you could, now you are a successful person. We are happy to listen to you. Now we'll take the feedback from our listeners. First, I request our Shamul Reddy garu. Sir,
దుర్గా మేడం
Amma, చెప్పండి sir.
మనం పెద్దవాళ్ళు మాట్లాడండి
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Now I request our
అది
Rajeshwar Rao
ఒక
garu
మీకు
to
చిన్న
say. చెప్పండి sir.
మన రాజేశ్వర్
Yeah.
రాజేశ్వర్ గారు పెట్టండి.
Yeah.
రాజేశ్వర్ గారు
Doctor.
మాట్లాడిన తర్వాత విశ్వనాథ్ గారు మాట్లాడి మనకి
Ah.
నాగరాజు భట్ గారు ఉన్నారండి, ఆచార్య నాగార్జున యూనివర్సిటీ
అలాగే
సైకాలజీ హెచ్ఓడి సైకాలజీ డిపార్ట్మెంట్, అది కూడా నోట్ చేసుకుని
అలాగే sir.
సార్ కూడా మాట్లాడు.
Yes.
రాజేశ్వర్ గారు ప్లీజ్, సారీ సార్.
Yeah. Rajeshwar Rao garu, please give your feedback, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Durga Madam ji, and thank you very much, Janima. We welcome you to India with your intellectuality. Let us be connected with your ideology and intellectuality. Welcome you, ma'am. So also international organization has been working for the upliftment of the needy, particularly in the area of distress and disappointments, all the psychological disorders which cause the suicidal ideation. We are scientifically working on it, and we are very happy to have your very scientific and also research-based intellectuality which you have given us. And we know the foundations of the psychology. It's a universal, and we have borrowed a lot from you all, and we are utilizing your foundations principles in application for the upliftment of the all walks of life and all kinds of people. Thank you very much. And earlier we say what is what is necessity is the mother of invention. Earlier we learned saying. Now, as per your statement and studies, I could understand that curiosity is the mother of exploration. Yes, this is what. Either internal or external. So wonderful, and your testimony is also heart-touching. I appreciate you said that you are a bright student while you are in school. That's the life, the definition of the life does not have its definition. The life definition is written by our own hands, our actions. And you have given definition to your life, which has touched all hearts of all the listeners in the group. You said that you are a bright student, you are not exceptional, doing some of the hardships while you are an undergraduate student. You have overcome and taken up all noble, what we call profession. Thank you very much, madam. And it seems you have done a lot in your research work, particularly in the area of curiosity, which is the key cause for the mental as well, psychological as well as the social exploration. It's a wonderful. And you have quoted the great writers like David Foster Wallace, and also you have quoted the book, your title, some book also I came to know. And he have quoted Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart, and he have quoted what is definition, defined. So what is what we call curiosity? It's a multi-angle. All the angles you have touched. It seems in my terminology, an old head and young shoulder. It seems your youth, your ideology, and expertise, your knowledge, your own curiosity is old on the young shoulders. It is a very connectivity, and we welcome you to our foundation, which has been working. And now, as the Prime Minister of India feels that the whole world is a family, and he has addressed in American Congress, which has touched the hearts of whole world. And he reiterated, emphasized, stressfully he said that we are one. Let us work together. Let us come together. Let us keep together. Now, this is the definition. So we don't have any discrimination basing on the regionality, race, color, creed, anything. We have the connectivity with our hearts, expertise, and humanity. Let us work together under our great foundation, the Spandana Ida International Foundation. Thank you very much. Really, it is wonderful. No exaggeration, any word or any sentence or any of our mind. What I say, Mr. Spandana. Thank you very much for wonderful this one. Hats up to you, Madam Johnny Ma'am. Thank you, proud of you. Nice. Have a nice time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajeshwara Garu. Now I request Professor Nagaraj Garu from Nagarjuna University Psychology Department. Sir, please give your feedback, sir. Sir, unmute చేసుకోండి, sir. Nagaraj Garu.
నారది అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి.
Sir, Nagaraj Garu. Professor Nagaraj Garu, unmute చేసుకోండి, sir. Achha. Okay. As Nagaraj Garki కొంచెం internet problem ఉన్నట్టుంది. Now I request our Professor Vishnadhan Garu to give his feedback. Vishnadhan Garu, Master Garu. Please give your feedback, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Jani. I enjoyed listening to you. I was feeling after a long time that I was sitting as a young child in a classroom listening to my teacher. You have clarity, you have content, you have the inspiration to give, you have stated instances and incidents from your own life, making the life personal. The lecture has become really an inspiration to us. Let me share some observations from your lecture. And maybe, if time permits, I have a question to ask, and that I will do towards the end. I was just, myself being a teacher, looking at what makes a good teacher. And I have some points to learn from your presentation. The planning you have done, the integration of the personal details at the appropriate places, how you have blended the whole session, and precisely at 6:59 or so, I have seen you say, thank you. Any questions, please, was your last slide. This shows that when you started in the beginning, curiosity killed a cat and so on. And from a negative situation, you have developed beautifully the logic of what curiosity does and why curiosity should be cultivated and how curiosity is going to help anyone at any stage, whatever be the profession to which they belong. Further, I have a strong feeling that the love to learn has made you to love curiosity. Loving curiosity is exploration. Just as you have rightly said, that life is an exploration, I am sure every aspect of the human life is meant to be explored in greater and greater detail. It is only then that the knowledge will be expanded. The purpose of expansion of the knowledge is to acquire, share, spread, and create a better world. If the objective is to create a better world, it goes without saying that you have to be curious and consistently curious, seriously curious. And this I found in you as a teacher, a very beautiful quality that has made you think the good slides that you have shown, giving us an idea of the type of in-depth analysis, research, content presentation, and improvement that you have done, and so on. Now, one or two observations you made really touched my heart. We want to build stronger connections. Personally, I have a feeling that stronger connections, even between strangers, would be possible when there is value orientation. If they were to have different values, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to bring even acquaintances, let alone stronger connections. Another important point is you made a statement that as a teacher, you realized that different students learn differently. It's a very beautiful observation. The teacher is one. They teach for 50 minutes or 60 minutes, give some homework, and leave the classroom. How much of what has been absorbed by whom and in what manner, with what clarity, I think are all going to make a very big difference. But then the beauty is that, as you said, quoting Einstein from the book, Old Man's Advice to Youth, never lose a holy curiosity. As a teacher, I feel it is the responsibility of the teacher to awaken the curiosity, awaken the interest, awaken the urge for learning, the urge for inquiry, the urge for searching, so that we can create a better world and pass it on to the next generation compared to what we ourselves have inherited from the previous generation. Now, this orientation, I am sure, is going to make a very big change. And I think all my friends who are here, many of us belong to teaching profession. We have a lot to observe in terms of your humility, in terms of clarity, in terms of creating interest, in terms of sustaining it throughout the duration of the session, and in terms of confessing certain aspects like that you may not be having children, but you have 3 nephews to take care of, and so on. I have a feeling personally that having children along with you, whether your own or relatives or others, is the best thing that world teaches us to learn. We become more humane. We become more considerate. We become more willing to share. If life is not understood as given for learning, given for sharing, given for growing, given for contributing, what else is the purpose of life? Now, these are certain observations which I wanted to make. Now, I have one question. Can I ask a question? Amma Durga, can I ask a question or just
Yes,
leave it
sir.
at this?
Sure, sir. Sure. Please ask.
Now, Madam, you were just mentioning during the course of your presentation that you wanted to get your PG degree, become a doctor, become a psychiatrist or some such thing and so on. I'm sure you said yourself that you love teaching. Do you still have that feeling that you wanted to become a psychiatrist? And have you overcome that feeling? 3, what is your extent of commitment for being a teacher now that you are almost settled as a teacher? I'll be happy to listen to your answers. Please.
Thank you very much for your observation and your feedback and for your question. It's interesting because you're not the first person who has asked me this question, but I am no longer interested in being a psychiatrist. Now, I am still very interested in psychology, and from the books maybe that I referred to, I think you can see that this is still a field that I'm very interested in, and I think that there's so much value in it for life, for human relationships, and for individual and for communities. But I am no longer interested in being a psychiatrist. because I actually love being a teacher. And I just want to, I really enjoy teaching. And I think more than, see, one thing that I love about being a teacher is I get to spend more time learning from a broader set of subjects because I'm teaching others different subjects. If I was a psychiatrist, I would have to only focus on one thing. And as much as I find the field of psychology fascinating, I am very happy with the fact that as a teacher, I get to touch on many different subjects. The only downside is maybe it means I will never be an expert in anything except hopefully teaching. But even that, I think there's always something to learn. So I hope that answers your question.
I just have one point to make. I'm sure our chairman, Dr. Samuel Reddy, will be very happy to have a script from you about one or two topics like how to become a better teacher, how to awaken the curiosity in the minds of the students. These are the two topics which I can think of right at this moment. And maybe a 6 to 8 page note from you as hints or synopsis or whatever it is you would like to. I'm sure our proposed website would be able to include this information so that not just the hundreds and thousands who will be seeing the video, maybe lakhs of people would be able to have access to what you have to say about these two topics. That is how to become a better teacher, meant for the teachers, and how to continuously awaken the curiosity in the students. And that I am sure would be useful both for students and for teachers. Thank you so much. God bless you. Best wishes. Someday when you can find some time, most welcome to India and to Guntur, the place where the headquarters of the Spandana Foundation are located. Most welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your feedback and blessings and asking for the write-up, and we can publish as a book. Now I request Dr. Nagaraj Garu of Nagarjuna University to give feedback, sir. Nagaraj Garu.
Yeah. Good
Yes,
evening to all of you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, thanks, Durga madam, to invite me. And Ida Samuel Reddy Garu, who is the chairman and founder CEO of this Ida International organization, to invite people like legendary personality Viswanathan Garu, a professor from Osmania University. It's really great to associate with this Zoom meeting. I myself, Dr. Nagaraju from Department of Psychology, Acharya Nagarjuna University, greeting Natali Jani, who is the resource person of today's Zoom meeting. It's really interesting. Of course, a little bit late to join in this meeting. Her presentation went on well. Of course, no need to further extend my feedback once the legendary personality Viswanathan Garu is already revealed on various aspects. On behalf of the Department of Psychology, Acharya Nagarjuna University, it is a state university very close to the Guntur, Andhra Pradesh in India. Welcomes Natali Jani as a faculty of this department for a semester. So we have a guidelines issued by the Vice Chancellor of Acharya Nagarjuna University in born foreign teachers interesting in teaching like Johnny. Most welcome. If you are interested, if you have that much time and feasibility to spend time 3 months or 2 months, so we are most welcome from our university. This I can say. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
We will send the formal invitation from our department, from our university. Your email address and all collected from our Ida Samuel, sir. Thank you, sir, inviting such a young, energetic Johnny Madam to reveal her experiences, to quoted very good examples and reference books. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nagaraj Garu, for giving your feedback and also inviting Natali Jain to your university. Madam, we want all of you to take this opportunity so that we can hear your talks in Nagarjuna University, and we can also see you. We can have a more bonding with you as a teacher. Thank you very much. Please accept our invitation as per your convenience, madam. Yes, Natali, madam.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. It's a great honor. I did not expect this. I would love to come and visit you all in India. I had the privilege of coming to India a couple of years ago, and I would love to go again. I will have to check upon availability because I do work full time, but I would love to make it possible to come and see you all. So thank you so much. It's such an honor and a privilege.
Thank you. Thank you.
Durga madam.
Shamal Reddy garu.
No, yes, madam. Madam, Dr. Rao garu unnaru chudandi.
Sir, now I request Dr. Rao garu to give the feedback and blessings to Nathali Zari, madam. Rao garu. MV Rao garu.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir,
Good
please.
evening, all of you. Thank you for arranging such a wonderful session. Samuel Reddy.
Dr. garu. Okay. Carry on.
Matladandi, sir.
Just trying to stop it. Can you hear me, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes.
It was a wonderful session. Such a ordinary word, curiosity, she has taken up, and she has really shown us the difference between ordinary interest and the effect of curiosity. It was such a powerful word. I never realized till today. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes. Please continue.
So, I had been curious, but I didn't know. It was because of this curiosity. Every day I am excited as soon as I wake up. And every day I'm so curious to learn something new. Each and every day. Each and every day I've been learning something new. Although I'm now aged 75 years, people wonder why I'm so active, why I'm so enthusiastic, how I am so curious, and how I am resilient to all the problems and difficulties we do face. So with this, madam, can you tell me the difference between curiosity and enthusiasm, Madam Johnny? The difference between curiosity and enthusiasm.
That's a really interesting question. I have not looked at the difference technically. I think from my own point of view, I think enthusiasm is being excited about what you're doing in the moment. That's what I would say. I would have to look into it more, but I think enthusiasm is being excited about what you're doing in the moment or what you see, but there isn't necessarily the drive to grow or learn from it. It's closer to being just to enjoying what it is that you're doing in the moment, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would have to do some research on that too.
That clarifies the meaning, because curiosity is about learning something new, and
Cognitive relating to cognition.
enthusiasm is about doing something interestingly. I was really impressed by the benefits of curiosity every day, starting from being healthy, being happy, because it produces, when you learn something new, produces the happy chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, etc., oxytocin. And also now, as I think deeply, now I realize why I am successful in my profession as a doctor, because I'm so curious to listen to the patients. Each patient brings such wonderful stories with them. If you only care to listen to them, the people will have better health. So it prevents conflicts, it prevents divorces between partners, and so many health benefits also. It prevents wars between countries and between people. Really, you made us really aware of this, realize the importance of this small word, curiosity. It really makes a difference in the world if only one realizes the power of this small word, curiosity. Thank you very much, ma'am. I was really impressed about it. Thank you, Samuel Reddy Garu, for arranging such beautiful lectures. I've been so curious to attend all of your lectures, and you are sending me the link also every week. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Rao Garu, for the curiosity and enthusiasm, curiosity to learn and enthusiasm to be active, to know something. Chala chakkaga cheppincharu, baagundi Santoshan sir. Anybody please raise your hand, or you can give your feedback. Anyone who is interested, please. Jyotirmayi garu, please. Amma Jyotirmayi garu, mee feedback ivandi amma. Jyotirmayi garu.
Okay, ma'am. Can I audible?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. 1 minute, ma'am.
Yes, please speak.
Hi, Natali. This is Jyotirmay. First of all, you're looking so good and beautiful. Hello.
Yes, thank you so much. That's very kind.
Okay. We are very happy that you joined in our Spandana family, and it is a good interaction had till now with all of us, hoping many more meetings to go with our foundation to come over suicide-free countries in and around globe. Natalie, are you hearing?
Yes, I can hear you, although my sound is going in and out. I apologize.
Yeah. Your speech was very awesome.
Thank you.
And your personal story also you shared. Very nice. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyotirmay Garu, for your wishes and introducing Natali Zain for us. It was a wonderful session, and we expect more from Natali Zain Garu. Is anyone interested to give the feedback? Please raise your hand.
Ma Durga,
Stephen sir.
please don't forget
Srinivas
to
Reddy garu.
invite Dr. Samuel Reddy Garu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. అంటే లాస్ట్ లో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు సార్. సార్ శ్యామల్ రెడ్డి గారు, సార్ మీ ఫీడ్బ్యాక్ ఇవ్వండి సార్. డాక్టర్ ఇదా శ్యామల్ రెడ్డి గారు, ఫౌండర్ స్పందన ఇదా ఇంటర్నేషనల్ ఫౌండేషన్. సో ప్లీజ్.
మేడం
సార్
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ అండి. మేడం నా వాయిస్ వినపడుతుందా?
వినపడుతుంది సార్, వినపడుతుంది.
ఇక్కడ బాగా సిగ్నల్ చాలా వీక్ గా ఉందండి. ఓకే మేడం. మేడం ఓకేనా మేడం?
It's okay, sir. Please
Yes,
go
sir.
on.
వినపడుతుంది సార్, మాట్లాడండి.
ఓకే ఓకే థ్యాంక్ యూ మేడం. గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ యూ. ప్రత్యేకంగా గ్రూప్ లో ఉన్న హానరబుల్ అడ్వైజర్ విశ్వనాథన్ గారికి, అలాగే రాజేశ్వర్ గారి, గ్రూప్ లో ఉన్న సభ్యులందరికీ ప్రత్యేక నమస్కారాలు తెలియజేస్తూ, థ్యాంక్ యూ మేడం నతాలి జానీ గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఫర్ యువర్ వాల్యుబుల్ వర్డ్స్ అండ్ వాల్యుబుల్ స్పీచ్. యాక్చువల్గా నేను రాజేశ్వర్ గారు చిన్న హెల్ప్ అడుగుతున్నాను. రాజేశ్వర్ గారు ఉన్నారండి?
ఉన్నారు సార్, ఉన్నారు.
హలో రాజేశ్వర్ గారు, అంటే లైన్ లో ఉన్నారు. వీడియో ఆన్ చేస్తారా? ఓకే, ఏం లేదండి. అంటే సార్ అంటే నేను నాకు మీరు చెప్పింది కానీ మనకి నతాలి మేడం చెప్పిన మొత్తం ఇంగ్లీష్ అండర్స్టాండ్ అయింది. బట్ నేను ఇంగ్లీష్ లో మాట్లాడితే రకరకాలుగా ఉంటుంది కనుక నేను షేరింగ్ చేస్తాను. అది ఇంగ్లీష్ కన్వే చేస్తే బాగుంటుంది మేడంకి ఉద్దేశం. నతాలి మేడం గారికి ప్రత్యేక ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ, ఇప్పుడు గురించి ఒక వర్డ్ నుంచి ఒక మంచి సబ్జెక్ట్ ని మనం ఈరోజు ఆ వర్డ్ వెనక ఉన్నటువంటి విషయాన్ని ఇంత లోతుగా మనం తెలుసుకోవడానికి మేడం ఇచ్చినటువంటి సబ్జెక్ట్ ని బట్టి వారికి ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ,
I render my special thanks to Nethali madam. You have taken a single word which has lots of depth, and it has touched our heart, for which I am thankful to you, ma'am. Go ahead, sir.
సార్ వస్తుంది సార్?
వస్తుంది నేను చెప్పాను.
ఆ వర్డ్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఆ వర్డ్ వెనక ఉన్నటువంటి ఉద్దేశాన్ని చక్కగా వివరించిన మేడం ప్రత్యేక ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ, నాకు కూడా క్యూరియాసిటీ, అంటే ఈ రోజు కూడా మనం జూమ్ సెషన్ లో హైదరాబాద్ లో మాట్లాడుకోవడం జరిగింది సార్. ఇక్కడ తెలంగాణ కమిటీ అంతా వస్తే నేను కూడా ఆ క్యూరియాసిటీతోనే ఇంత వర్క్ చేస్తున్నాను మనందరం కూడా. ఆ వర్డ్ ఇప్పుడు మేడం నోటి నుంచి వచ్చినప్పుడు ఆ చెప్తున్న సబ్జెక్ట్ ని బట్టి అది నాకు అనిపించిన ఫీలింగ్ అనమాట. అంటే ఏదో ఒక మంచి జనరేషన్ చూడాలని ఒక మంచి క్యూరియాసిటీతో మనం అంతా కలిసి ఆ పని చేస్తున్నాం అనిపించింది. ఎనీవే, మరొకసారి నతాలి జానీ మేడం గారికి థ్యాంక్స్ చెప్తూ, ఫ్యూచర్ లో కూడా మీ వాల్యుబుల్ సపోర్ట్, ఎట్లా విశ్వనాథం గారు ఉన్నారు కాబట్టి నేను చెప్పే పని లేదు కాబట్టి, ఆల్రెడీ సార్ చెప్పేశారు కాబట్టి, సార్ లేకపోతే నేను రిక్వెస్ట్ పెట్టుకోవాలి, సార్ ఉన్నారు కాబట్టి సార్ రిక్వెస్ట్ చేశారు కాబట్టి, ఆ 6 to 8 pages రైట్ ఏదైతే ఉందో ఈరోజు ఉన్నటువంటి వాల్యుబుల్ సబ్జెక్ట్ ని మనకి అందించినట్లయితే మనం టీచర్స్ వరకు, స్టూడెంట్స్ వరకు మనం ఆ బుక్లెట్ ప్రింట్ చేయొచ్చండి. అలాగే నాగరాజు గారు మాట్లాడినప్పుడు మేడం ఇన్వైట్ చేశారు, బట్ అది నాకు కొంచెం క్లారిటీగా అర్థం కాలేదు. కానీ మేడం చెప్పింది ఒకటైతే మాత్రం, లాస్ట్ మీటింగ్ లో బీసీ గారు ఏదైతే త్వరలో ఒక ఇంటర్నేషనల్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ ఆచార్య నాగార్జున యూనివర్సిటీ, స్పందనాయుడు ఫౌండేషన్ కలిసి యాజ్ ఎర్లీ యాజ్ పాసిబుల్ చేయాలని ఆయన ఆకాంక్షించారు. ఆ ఆకాంక్షలో భాగంగా బహుశా మనకి ఈరోజు ఇలాంటి మంచి మంచి స్పీకర్స్ రావటం, వారు త్వరలో ఆ సెమినార్ లో కలుస్తారని, అలాగే నతాలి మేడం కూడా ఆ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ లో ప్రత్యేకంగా మనం ఆహ్వానించి ఒక మంచి సబ్జెక్ట్ ని మన వారందరికి కూడా అందించుకోవడం ద్వారా ఆ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ కూడా సక్సెస్ఫుల్ గా ఇంటర్నేషనల్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ నాగార్జున యూనివర్సిటీలో అతి త్వరలోనే జరిగే కార్యక్రమంలో బహుశా వీరంతా మనకు మేడం లాంటి వాళ్ళందరూ కూడా మనకి ఎంతో హెల్ప్ చేస్తారని నమ్ముతూ మరొకసారి ప్రత్యేకంగా జానీ మేడం గారికి ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ గ్రూప్ లో ఉన్న ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ మేడం.
I have been in Hyderabad since a few days, and my driving force is also curiosity. Madam, rightly you have touched that topic today. I would like to see the good generation in India, the generation with a great ideology and social responsibility. Because rightly recently, in the last week, we had a great conference in Nagarjuna University, in which the respected VC of the university proposed for international conference. And rightly, you are the person who has touched at international level. We heartily invite you to such a wonderful this one. And our Professor Nagaraju proposed and invited you to his university is one of the best faculties for a semester, right? But I don't know whether you could accept it, and it is it is what we call inconvenient to you. I could not understand, but I would like to know whether. So shortly, we all meet on the premises and the campus of Nagarjuna University for common goal and noble cause. Once again, I render and I extend my heartfelt thanks to you for your wonderful expertise and intellectual talk you have shared with us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So, Natali, madam, you got now two types of homework. One is usually teacher gives homework to the student. Now our Vishnatha master our teacher has given you homework. One to give a write-up on this small topic, whatever you have given as how to become a better teacher, and also on the curiosity. And second, our invitation, please accept to come to Nagarjuna University for our international conference. Also, when university is going to invite you as a visiting faculty, please accept, madam. These two requests from our side, that is our from Spandana Foundation, our Shamul Reddy Garu is requesting you. Thank you very much for the wonderful.
Excuse me, madam. Nitali, madam, Jani, madam, it should be made clear to you. The second message which I gave to you is the message of our founder chairman, Dr. Shamil Reddy Garu. Just I translated. That is, I hope that you could understand that one. That is a message, message spoken from our mouth of our chairman, the respected chairman, sir, of this foundation.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for translating. And then once again, thank you for inviting me, Dr. Samuel. And thank you for the invitation. Once again, I will have to see how that could be possible in light of where I am and my schedule, but I would love for the opportunity to come and accept your invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Now, Ramanujama, vote of thanks, Rama.
థ్యాంక్ యూ మేడం. మేడం ఒక చిన్న థ్యాంక్స్ చెప్తాం. జ్యోతిర్మయ్య గారికి కూడా ప్రత్యేకంగా అందరూ ఉన్నాం కనుక థ్యాంక్స్ చెప్తాం. ఎందుకంటే లాస్ట్ 7-8 వీక్స్ నుంచి కూడా మనం డిఫరెంట్ కంట్రీస్ నుంచి ఒక వండర్ఫుల్ పర్సన్ మనతో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. మేడం చేస్తుందని కూడా ప్రత్యేక
On behalf of Spandana Ida Foundation, we thank Jyotirmay Garu for introducing you. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Jyotirmay Garu. Thank you, Natali, madam. Ramanujama Garu.
Thank you, Natali. మీ వాల్యుబుల్ టైం కేటాయించి మరి ఎన్నో మంచి విషయాలు ఇవాళ మీరు మాతో షేర్ చేసినందుకు ప్రత్యేకమైన ధన్యవాదాలు. అలాగే మన ఫౌండర్ చైర్మన్ డాక్టర్ శామ్యుల్ రెడ్డి గారికి, మన హానరబుల్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ నిర్మలా మేడం గారికి, డైరెక్టర్ రంగిరెడ్డి గారికి, పెద్దలు పూజ్యులు విశ్వనాథం గురువు గారికి, ఆల్ కమిటీ మెంబర్స్ కి, మరీ ముఖ్యంగా మరి ఇంత మంచి ఇంటర్నేషనల్ లెవెల్లో స్పీకర్స్ ని మనకి ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేస్తున్నటువంటి జ్యోతిర్మయ్య గారికి ప్రత్యేకమైన ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాను. అలాగే మరి మన ఆల్ కమిటీ మెంబర్స్ మరియు జూమ్ ఆర్ యూట్యూబ్ లో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేస్తున్న ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి కూడా పేరు పేరు ధన్యవాదాలు. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఆల్.
On behalf of Spandana Foundation, we thank our speaker today, special speaker, Nathali Zanigaru, for taking a beautiful topic on curiosity and creating more curiosity to learn about learn and also know what is the difference between curiosity and enthusiasm. We once again thank you, madam, wholeheartedly. Now we are going to close our program with a pledge song of SPANDANAEDAIF Foundation. Thank you, madam. Pledge song.
చేతిని చాచి చేద్దాం ఇప్పుడే ప్రతిజ్ఞ, చేతిని చాచి చేద్దాం ఇప్పుడే ప్రతిజ్ఞ, జాతిని తలచి చేద్దాం ఇప్పుడే ప్రతిజ్ఞ, జాతిని తలచి చేద్దాం ఇప్పుడే ప్రతిజ్ఞ. చీకటి వెనుకే వెలుగు ఉందని, ఓటమి వెనుకే గెలుపు ఉందని, చీకటి వెనుకే వెలుగు ఉందని, ఓటమి వెనుకే గెలుపు ఉందని, ప్రేమ ఒక్కటే బ్రతుకు కాదని, ప్రాణం పోతే తిరిగి రాదని, ప్రేమ ఒక్కటే బ్రతుకు కాదని, ప్రాణం పోతే తిరిగి రాదని, తప్పటడుగులను సరిదిద్దేటి పెద్దల మాటలు విందాం, తప్పటడుగులను సరిదిద్దేటి పెద్దల మాటలు విందాం, తప్పక వాటిని పాటించి విజయానికి వారధి కడదాం, తప్పక వాటిని పాటించి విజయానికి వారధి కడదాం, మహనీయుల వారసులవుదాం, మహనీయుల వారసులవుదాం. తొందరపాటే తగదని, తుది వరకు జీవించాలని, తొందరపాటే తగదని, తుది వరకు జీవించాలని, ఎదిరిద్దాం ఎలాంటి కష్టాన్నైనా, సాధిద్దాం ఎంతటి లక్ష్యాన్నైనా, ఎదిరిద్దాం ఎలాంటి కష్టాన్నైనా, సాధిద్దాం ఎంతటి లక్ష్యాన్నైనా, అమ్మా నాన్నల రుణం తీర్చుకొని సమాజాన్ని నడిపిద్దాం, అమ్మా నాన్నల రుణం తీర్చుకొని సమాజాన్ని నడిపిద్దాం, బలవన్మరణాలే లేని భారతాన్ని నిర్మిద్దాం, బలవన్మరణాలే లేని భారతాన్ని నిర్మిద్దాం, భావితరాలకు అందిద్దాం, భావితరాలకు అందిద్దాం.
Suicide Free India is our aim. It is SPANDANAEDAIF International Foundation dream.
Thank you, one and all, and good night. Thank you, madam, once again.
Thank you once again. Good night.
Thank you.